When Louisa Gillespie was 1 year old, her family was relocated by the Canadian government from northern Quebec to the high Arctic community of Resolute Bay. She wouldn't know the full story of that move for another 4 decades. She's here to share it today. Louisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me why the government decided to move your family so far north.
I didn't know until I was, I think, 40, 45, that the Arctic wasn't claimed by any country, even though we were living in it. There were Inuit people living around there, probably for sovereignty reasons. I don't know the full reason why they did that, but they needed people who can live permanently there.
That would help Canada be able to claim the Arctic,
Yes,
basically.
yes.
And you were just one, so of course you didn't know the whole story.
No.
But your parents were promised by the government, look, just give it a try. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. It's beautiful. And if you don't like it within 2 years, you can leave.
Yes.
But none of that turned out to be true,
No.
did it?
I remember my father going to meetings because he was chosen as the leader of the small community, that he would have a meeting with the government officials and the RCMP saying, maybe this time we'll go home because they promised us. And he came home really sad because they said that we have to wait another 2 years. Let's try it again. We can't do it this time.
And
so that went on for 6 years.
Some of the ways that you survived, hunting, fishing, all of that. Tell me about the challenges of living like that in such a desolate place.
Even though the government brought another family from closest to Resolute Bay, from Panilit, they were supposed to show us where to go hunting and how to hunt in that different climate. There was a language barrier. Even though we spoke the same language, our dialects were so different. Some of the words we spoke were the same words, but they meant different. So the communication was a little bit off. So we couldn't learn fast enough to survive well. And what we survived on was, there was an Air Force base 5 miles from where we were camp, whatever. And we survived off their dump.
How did you feel when you started learning this history?
At first I was in shock. But a lot of things start to fall into place. Why my parents and my uncles and aunts seemed to have that dark cloud over them. Like there was always gloom, there was sadness, deep dark sadness. So to me that was normal because that's what I grew up with. But it started to make sense because they were missing their family. Family is huge with Inuit people.
And this was all kind of around the same time you were starting a faith journey as well. Tell me a little bit about that faith journey, really discovering Jesus.
We were living in Regina, and I got flown to Resolute for 2 weeks of healing workshops. During that time, my sister-in-law's brother was an Anglican minister, and he was born again. And he was having a worship evening. And that was the first time. By that time, I didn't know my language that well because I was assimilated into this English-speaking culture. So I asked him why, because during the whole worship time, I was crying. I was at the church with them. He spoke to me in Inuktitut, and he said something about Jesus, and I said, oh, I guess so, because when you go to church regularly, you think you're a Christian. So I thought, I guess so. I thought he's my savior. And so he said, repeat after me. So that was the first time I got born again.
So you made this decision really to start a relationship with Jesus. So when you said you can go to church but not be a Christian,
But I didn't stay connected
with the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't know.
No, but it's not till 1997. Bill Prankert was speaking in Life Center, and my sister-in-law and her sister asked me if I wanted to come. And flippantly, I said, oh, might as well go, What can it hurt, right? And that night, the Lord wouldn't leave Bill Prankert alone on someone needing to come and surrendering their life to Jesus. I didn't know what he was talking about. But that's when I wholeheartedly invited Jesus into my life, and my life changed since then.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.